why Africa is behind is because we have not recognized ourselves. We have self-hate, we have confidence problems, and that has affected our level of development. In terms of suicides, the mental health is on the rise, bad health, I told you about the sugar and what. So all the indicators are going the wrong way. And this is my point. We will not get Africa rise if we've got a sick and unhappy
population.
100%. And that is why I invest so much into this. I once hosted some friends who came to the farm to have a look and all that. And one of them stopped me and said, "How does it feel to have so much land?" Get to 10,000 hectares. Young men, 25 years old. At 25 years, they have not actually talked to a girl. And the statistics also show that not just girls or boys, lots of them in their 20s, they go to their 30s and they've had very little sex, even compared to our generation. So this is even a threat in terms of just ensuring that our populations are kept going.
Yeah. All right, people of the internet, quick pause in our conversation because today's episode is brought to you by Trading. 10 years ago, a Kenyan woman sat down and decided she was going to learn the global financial markets. People of the internet, I am not talking about Forex and I'm not talking about crypto bubbles or whatever scheme is hot this week. She has been helping hundreds of people find a living and create wealth. I am talking about options trading. Option trading runs on regulated American exchanges that has rules. The other thing it has, it rewards discipline over hype. Now, my friend is called Phyllis, a big supporter of Dialogues with Jagero. For the past 10 years, Phyllis has been doing options trading quietly, patiently, and daily. And now she has built a set of winning formulas you can trust because I have tested it and I've seen her doing this with hundreds of people that are following her, and it is legit. She has strategies tested in real markets with real money in every kind of trading scenario. Now, she has turned around and started teaching other people how to do it too. People like you. Today, that work is called trading. And hundreds of our clients now use our formulas every single day to generate legitimate income from the markets without quitting their day jobs. People of the internet, pause. This is not a get-rich-quick story, by the way. This is a Kenyan woman who put in 10 years, so you don't have to start from scratch story. If you've been looking for a real side hustle, something with rules, something with proof, something that respects your money, trading is your gateway. Find them online and on social media and let Phyllis show you what a decade of doing it right actually looks like. You can call them on +254 11 63 11 000 or plus, this is WhatsApp by the way, +147 072 555 35. You will find all the description on the description of this podcast. Thank you very much, and now back to Paul. All right, hello there, people of the internet. My name is Jagero, and this is Dialogues with Jagero, coming to you from the City of Glasses. Today, I've got a guest coming from Southern Africa. You know, I don't know whether it's you can't say South Africa. You have to say Southern Africa.
No, I'll have a problem if you say South Africa because I'm not from South Africa and it's our big brother, so we don't like it.
I have a feeling.
So you have to say Southern Africa.
Southern Africa.
Yes.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's
my brother
good to be here
today.
in Kenya.
Can I call you a brother or a father?
A brother. Don't make me that old.
My brother is called Oabona.
That's right.
Oabona. The other name is so difficult. I'm not able to pronounce it.
But you got 7.5 out of 10.
No, I got Oabona 7. The other one, I don't think so. The other one, I don't think so.
Kgengwenyane.
Kgengwenyane.
That's it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I got it.
Yeah.
My guest is coming from Botswana. How do you actually pronounce it in your local language?
It is Botswana, and Botswana means the land of Botswana, the land of the Tswana people. That's what it means. So it's Botswana. When we were still a British colony, they called us Bechuanaland. You know that the English, when they came there, they bastardized our language.
Yeah.
So it was, if you look at the history maps and the geography, you'll see Bechuanaland Protectorate. So they couldn't say Botswana, they said Botswana land. So that's what we are called in the 19th century, coming into the early parts of the 20th century, before we got our independence in 1966. Yeah.
You got your independence. It is very interesting that most of the African countries were getting their independence around that time.
Yeah.
I remember Mboya, I don't remember, but it's in the history that Mboya used to traverse the African countries a lot. I think Ghana is 1953.
Yes, Ghana was the first one, yeah.
Ghana was the first one, 1953.
Yeah.
And then others quickly followed.
Yeah.
South Africa would be in the gutter for a long time, until 1994. I don't know, it's a big country, full of, they couldn't fight, right?
They couldn't fight?
Yeah. They couldn't fight the white man, yeah.
Well, the white man was oppressing them, because obviously he had the gun and he had the capital, and they were living under oppression. It was a very sad phase. I experienced a little bit of that. So it was a really bad time.
Yeah.
From 1948, when the National Party introduced apartheid, and they went to that was 1948. Like you said, they fought, a lot of bloodletting, a lot of death, a lot of headaches for the black people in South Africa, up until 94, when ultimately they managed to attain independence. And
Did you have kings and queens before the white man came? How was the people of the people of your country living?
No. Just like any other African country, all had tribes and nations and tribes and stuff like that. So same thing. We have I come from the Barolong tribe. We have our own kings. Barolong are part of the Botswana. And then we have the Bamatu, we have Bakatla, and as I told you earlier, a lot of these tribes are also in South Africa, because the borders were just drawn out of the British, just drawing lines along the riverways and separating people. Like I told you, there are more people of Botswana in South Africa than in Botswana.
Yeah.
And that's some of the misdeeds that were done by our colonizers.
Do you feel like an African, or do you feel like a Tswana? It's called Tswana, right?
Tswana. You are bastardizing. You're also so low. You are Luo, isn't it?
Our language is pretty plain.
Yeah.
It has no intonations and all those other things. Okay, so if you give us those things,
I'm Tswana. I'm first Tswana, second African. Obviously, you are first your tribe.
Yeah.
Allegiance to my chief or my king, my people, my community, then obviously to my country, then from my country to Africa. But increasingly, I'm emphasizing, that's why I've been harassing your guys here to stop using English names, to start using their African names, because
they don't like those names. They don't like those tribal names. They like to confuse people.
Yeah. It's a pity, but we've got to recognize who we are and go back to who we are.
As Africans, do you think that we are winning globally, or do you think we are stuck somewhere?
I am picking up elements of progress.
Okay.
I don't even know whether we achieve it during our lifetime, but I think there's a little renaissance going on. And I'm saying this because we are coming from a very low point. I like giving an example of how, let's go to Asia, for instance, and go to China.
Okay.
China was very poor in the 80s and 70s.
In the 80s and 70s?
It was very poor.
Just the other day.
We're talking hundreds and hundreds of millions of people. Just over 30 years, they managed to eradicate poverty and put over 800 million people from poverty to middle class, just within 30 years. And India is doing the same thing. And these are populations, China has got 1.4 billion people, India about the same, Africa about the same. So they did it, and there's no reason why we can't. We obviously started very badly, and I think part of it was the implications of colonization. But I think currently we are starting to do the right things. You have a lot of philosophers across Africa. I think you've watched my podcast as well, where I was interviewing Mr. Joshua Maponga, who talks about this, where we need to realize ourselves and start taking out all the shackles of colonization. Starts with the names. More and more young people are really appealing to people like Maponga, who have huge following. Patrick Lumumba from Kenya, your local.
Yeah.
He speaks a lot
he's
about
He's more popular in Southern Africa than he is in Kenya.
It's always the case. Your local, it's always the case. You always make impact elsewhere. It's interesting because even our president, we have a new president from last year who won the elections. I mean, he seems to be more popular outside Botswana than in Botswana. So that's the name of the game. But otherwise, yes, the renaissance has started. I think we are having a new breed of presidents who are getting Africa back to where it belongs. I mean, we're talking about Burkina Faso with Traore. We're talking, even my president, President Duma, is also a Pan-Africanist in terms of his tone and how he speaks. We've got to start making sure that we grow our own people. We sort out our education to decolonize it, names, languages, and all that kind of stuff. And then once we get the confidence, because my true belief is that if we don't, why Africa is behind is because we have not recognized ourselves. We have self-hate, we have confidence problems, and that has affected our level of development. If you go back to those roots of who we are, the Chinese are Chinese, they're proud of who they are, they speak their language, and one of the big things is that that has been when I talked to one of the specialists in language, said no civilization or no country have industrialized using someone else's language.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah. So it's very, if you look at Japan, if you look at all the other countries that industrialized in the last 200 years, they premised that on their own language. So it's very important for Africans to realize that we being pale and trying to imitate other people will not get us to our true north.
We've got 1,000 languages, Mr. Oabona.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, but we've got to write them, we've got to teach our children. That's the confidence. It's a psycho impact of who you are. Once you get that confidence, we are busy trying to imitate other people, and we try to share off who we are, but it hasn't worked, and that's what I'm saying. It hasn't worked because that's why we're stuck with poor economic, poor social development amongst our people. And if you look at, just give you an example, with 1.4 billion people, and if you look at the economies of our different countries, most of them are still stuck at low income bracket in terms of low income status, or even Kenya. Kenya is currently a low middle income country in terms of its category, in terms of GDP per capita. Botswana is on the higher side and so forth. But otherwise, we have no country that has entered the high income status. Basically, we are a long way to industrialize. There are countries, there's one country, only one country in the 1.4 billion people that has made it, and it's a very small country called Seychelles, on the eastern coast, which is by definition it's a high income country, and really is because it's a very small country, hardly 500,000 people, and really relying on tourism, and is made it. But otherwise, you can imagine all these countries have not made it, and China just walked into become a high income country, and India is pumping in terms of, when I was coming here preparing, I was looking at the economic growth rates of our countries. Kenya is currently, textbook wise, is doing well, 5% GDP growth, a bit higher in Ethiopia and all. So that's what I'm saying, there's things that are bubbling, but that's not enough to attain high income in, say, 10 to 20 years time. The growth rate needs to be a lot higher.
Tell me a little bit about Botswana. How is it doing in terms of where does it get its money? How are the people? Are they doing well? Do you have proper channels of water and sewage system? How about corruption? How are you doing at Botswana?
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, no, this is a country that was is done quite remarkably by any standards of economics or social development. It's a country that got independence in 1966, as I said, after our founding President Cesar Kama, who was the one who led Botswana to independence, and really did a very good job in the early parts as the foundation fathers of Botswana. And because he embedded the democratic principles, he was an Oxford taught lawyer. Botswana at the time, it only had, in 1966, you could count the number of graduates.
Really?
Under 10. And we survived at a budget from England. I think it was $6 million or something, £6 million at the time, but highly subsidized by it. So we are a very poor country. We are basically one of the poorest countries on earth.
Today?
At 1966.
In 1966,
yes, we are one of the poorest countries on earth.
Okay.
With a couple of kilometers of tarred road.
Wow.
So it was really bad.
Okay.
But by grace, we managed to discover diamonds in Botswana, and that the story totally changed. And we survived the resource curse by virtue of our first president and his team, in terms of how they govern the country, in terms of very little corruption, because there's always corruption in any country.
Yeah.
But we are always tops in the world in terms of how Botswana was governed from the 70s to the 80s to the 90s. In the 70s and 80s, we were one of the highest. At one time, we were the highest in terms of GDP growth rates in the world, double digit. You're talking 13%, 10%, and stuff like that.
The whole world.
It was fueled by the diamonds because of the in Botswana, 80% of our foreign exchange comes from export comes from diamonds revenue, 80%, and it contributes about 30%
Diamond and
of
gold.
GDP. No, just diamonds. No gold. There's gold, but it's not. No, just diamonds. Botswana is the diamond country.
In the world.
It's a diamond country. It's one of the leading countries in the world by virtue of value of diamonds. It is the top in the world. Then when you talk about volumes, then you can bring in Russia and other countries like Angola and so forth, and a little bit of South. But South Africa is really emptying the diamond. But we are a diamond. The economy of Botswana was built on diamonds. That's why we ended up going from low, being one of the poorest, to one of the top 4 economies in Africa in terms of GDP per capita. Yeah.
Okay.
Botswana categorically, it's been said to be a very, very a rich country by African standards. That is why when you talk about the quality of life in terms of education, I mean, a lot of us, I'm one of those who benefited free education, went to the UK to get our education in terms of degree programs and good health system, doctors, kilometer from a doctor was all in good state. So when you talk about water reticulation, I mean, a lot of the villages have got water, they've got electricity and that kind of stuff. So the quality of life has been very good to the extent that we got spoiled.
Do you know that what you are doing that is not nice to my audience?
Yeah.
Is that you're brushing through it so fast.
Okay, so I should slow down and get the
because people need to please provide for us the context. Because in for example in Nigeria, the mines were given to different politicians and they are doing those mines and pocketing all the money.
Yeah.
So I would be very interesting to know how the government of Botswana actually did it. And I am very ignorant about this. When you have diamond that belong to the country, how does it work? So the government mines it and sells it as a government, or there are companies from outside that sell it and they split the profits? That is question number 1. Number 2, talk to me about exactly how health works in Zambia, in Botswana, how education, whether lower primary, lower and secondary, and university, is it free? Do people pay a little bit? And in as far as health is concerned, do you have affordable healthcare for each and everyone, like the Obamacare? How does that work? The road network, how is it like? The water, the electricity? Just not like you take a whole day to explain.
It's like, hey, watch it. Yeah, let's start with the diamonds because
okay.
Botswana is really a diamond country, and that's how it's known globally and not just for diamonds, but when I mention governance. Like you said, for your listeners, I mean, you have to unpack governance, and that's how it was properly governed. First of all, when the diamonds were discovered, and they were discovered through a partnership with a company called DBS. I don't know if you heard about DBS. No. DBS was the forefront of supplying and marketing diamonds globally. I mean, that's the company that partnered with the Botswana government. So the company partnered with Botswana in the late 60s. To come up with a company called Botswana. Ultimately, it ended up being a 50-50 partnership. So because, as I said earlier, the skills were not there in Botswana, so they leveraged the technical know-how of DBS, because DBS was already mining diamonds in South Africa. I don't know if you know about the discovery of the diamond mines in South Africa.
Yes.
Around 1870, the Kimberley mine was the first to be discovered during that mining rush. So they had the expertise. So Botswana was our founding president where obviously in terms of governance, in terms of they see things, they say we need this partner because we don't have the technical know-how. So and also the policies that government came up with in terms of a mineral policy and mining policies were such that every mineral that's discovered in the country is under the custodian of government. It is now government who will sell the diamonds through this company, with De Beers doing the marketing around the world, because De Beers, and that is a global company, they did most of the marketing. And then the proceeds came back, and the government used those proceeds to develop the country. So that was the development model that Botswana adopted. So a lot of the schools, a lot of the health facilities, a lot of the government structures in terms of ensuring that there is infrastructure around the different ministries and the roads and all that, and the water, which is, Botswana, as I said, is a very arid country, so getting water is a very expensive process. All those were funded through the government systems. So what you had naming around what happened in Nigeria, DRC, that's what they call the resource curse.
Okay.
Where now people, or even the presidents and their
cronies,
kleptocracy, yes, they basically enrich themselves using these resources. That did not happen in Botswana. Okay, period. Let's close that.
Brilliant.
Let's close that. That is why Botswana is renowned for its governance principles, and that again I blame, or I played the responsibility to the founding president. So Kama is as the founding president, he's someone was saying he's probably one of Africa's, if not the top president in Africa in terms of what he did for a country, because he didn't enrich himself. He was a minimalist. I mean, he didn't go around with large convoys of cars. The ministries and the ministers had small offices. There's a guy who could walk in the mall, that type of thing. So that was the beauty of the initial decades of Botswana. Unfortunately, he passed on in 1981, if I'm not mistaken. But his vice president, Kitumila Masire, took over from him.
He died while in office.
Yeah, he died was in office, yeah. He was quite young. He was 59 when he passed on.
59?
Yes, he died quite young, yeah. He died at 59. But his vice president was also the Minister of Finance and Development Planning, took over, and he also proceeded with the same type of principles. Up until now, if you're now asking about now, Botswana is going through quite some turmoil in terms of economic, because the diamonds now have been disrupted, but what we call the lab-grown diamonds, basically diamonds which are grown in the lab, which unfortunately we did not manage very well.
Diamonds that are grown in the lab?
In the lab, yes.
In Botswana?
No, globally.
Globally?
Yeah, they have been there. So no, we just do natural diamonds. So
they grow diamonds in the lab?
Yeah, in the lab. And they are selling very well. That is why in the last 2 years we had this economic crisis, where now Botswana is almost on its knees in terms of negative growth rates for the last 2 years. And then it even resulted in the government, the Sestra Kama's political party that has been in power for almost 60 years, being kicked out of power, and a new government coming in 2024. For the first time, we had a new government in Botswana in terms of the politics there, and that's how President Duma Boko came into power with the opposition party called UDC, and now they are trying the best they can to find alternative means of income, because the diamond market is really going through a lot of strain. Primarily, it's not just, primarily it's the lab-grown diamond. They have basically occupied a market share for the jewelry market. Some say it's 30% or 20 to 30%, and that's huge, because that's what Botswana had relied on for the last 60 years, and it was a huge blow, where now we're experiencing a perpetual government deficits and the GDP growth. We are emptying our coffers because now government had to use the savings that are there to try and fund the development process in the country.
How about the other, the school, the education, health? How does
those again funded from diamonds? Like I said, I'm a product of the diamonds, because I even worked for the company, the diamond mine, the diamond company that I talked about, which is a joint venture between DBS and Botswana government. So I worked there, and the education. So the education, again, the policies of President Kama was free education, right from primary to secondary to university.
Wow.
For many years. Even now, all you have to do is pass your O levels, and then government would sponsor your your university. And then if some of the courses which we require are not in the country, earlier on during my days, then you go overseas to go find training. So a lot of our people went for training. Obviously, I studied in Britain, and in the UK, some in Canada, some in the States, and so forth, because we didn't have the sophistication around our university infrastructure. But that now is improving, because now we've got.
So basically, the government would fly most of you.
Yeah, I was flying everything. All the costs will be covered by government too. So, and then and then also just to show you how Botswana really, and it's one of the highest spenders by GDP on education, Botswana, globally. I mean, we're talking about 12% of GDP be spent on. So education has always been a big thrust. That's why now we have a high percentage of youth who are unemployed, but they're very educated. They went to university and so forth. So there's a big concern about this educated but unemployed youth. In Botswana now we're talking 38% youth unemployment. And in terms of...
That's pretty high.
That's very high. Because of the economy, which was not diversified enough to create other industries, which is the focus now of the current government to try and diversify. So when you talk about education, very good. Health, one of the best in the world. The facilities, the accessibility now is taking strain as we speak because of some level of mismanagement, but also because now government hasn't got money to be able to supply the hospitals and the clinics with medicines. So health, and then infrastructure. I mean, one of the best in terms of infrastructure in Africa, in terms of, like you said, in terms of roads, in terms of water, in terms of connectivity. Almost 90% of Botswana is covered in terms of internet and all that. So generally, because of those good decades of economic growth, Botswana has been seen as one of the top performers in the world. Yeah, in those.
It looks like a place that I should go and live and retire to.
There are a lot of Kenyans who actually settled there. One of them is a farmer.
One of them is a farmer?
Yeah, a big farmer.
A Kenyan?
Yeah, Kenyan, who's localized in Botswana now. He's actually retiring to his farm. And
he grew up in Botswana?
He's from Kenya, and he went there to work in Botswana he was into property.
Is it a man that is easy to reach?
Yeah, I know him.
Great.
Yeah. If he doesn't mind, I can even mention his name.
Mention his name.
Yeah.
Which is good. Big up to him. How do Kenyans go there? Is it visa free? No.
I think currently there's visa free, even coming here. So things are evolving.
You came here, you walked into this place?
Yeah, with no issues with visa. So slowly things are, like we discussed earlier, asking me about Africa and the world, things are starting to turn. I mean, look at Rwanda, where now every African country visa free. And I see Ghana apparently are looking at the same thing. So slowly.
Yeah.
It's too slow for my liking, but we are getting there.
They just need to work on the airfare.
They
should just work on the airfare.
Work on the airfare, the travel expenses, because of the infrastructure is really terrible. But hopefully that will
work.
Yeah, so you can come into Botswana if you are a professional and you get a work permit, you work there. And currently there is a structure where they actually invite people with talent from outside to come into Botswana, and they can easily get visa. So that's something that they're promoting.
Great. Yeah. Let's talk about you then.
Yeah.
Right? From the beginning. So you're born in 1901, right?
I've done well in terms of 125 years old. I really wish I can get there. And we'll talk about it, because longevity is a big thing for me in terms of...
It is, right?
Yeah, living long.
You look like somebody who gym a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you don't eat bread, right?
Yeah, it's all covered in my book in terms of how to... Yeah. I like bread, but I eat very little bread, yes. Because sugar is one of those dangerous things that are, particularly from an African perspective, is really killing Africans.
How so?
Sugar. Yeah.
How so?
Well, we are really into white foods. Grain. Remember, grain is not natural.
Okay.
Grain was introduced because the growth in populations, and we started the agricultural revolution, and we started with a lot of grain. But a lot of grain has got a lot of sugar. And then it was exacerbated by the discovery of the mill, when we started milling and cutting with flour and all that and bombarding. So the body metabolism is not geared for that level of sugar, coming from bread, coming from rice, coming from sasa or maize meal, which is very popular in Southern Africa. I don't know about you guys here.
It's very popular.
We
have ugali.
Yeah,
very popular.
It's making people sick. So it causes blood pressure. And blood pressure is a big problem, leading to heart failure and heart attacks in Africa, which is is really bad. Similarly, sugar diabetes, which is also running, berserk in Botswana, in Zambia, in South Africa, because of sugar. Basically, sugar is not just sugar that you put into your tea.
Yeah.
That they say in white bread has got more sugar than your sugar.
All right.
It's so bad. It's got more sugar. And then also because Africans, we love all these junk and ultra-processed foods because we think it's fashionable. Walking into a KFC or all this and getting all these bad foods, those bad foods have got too much sugar, too much bad oils, and also too much salt. And that's also leading to bury our elders too early.
Yeah.
Our other elders before these ones, they lived longer simply because they ate what I call real foods or whole foods. They ate, they say the pauper's food or the peasant food is the food that we should be eating, the beans.
Yeah.
The traditional, we got millet in Botswana, your millet and those type of foods. Those are the good food that you should be eating. Then you have a longer life. So I talk a lot about longevity and happiness, and part of it I experiment myself to make sure that I do those things that our grandfathers or grandfathers did in terms of I make sure that I eat beans a couple of times a week because that's good for my metabolism. It's good for longevity. They say people who have a cup of beans every day, they live 4 years longer than those that don't eat beans. Just to give you an example. And then if you stay away from sugar, you have a good chance that you'll avoid sugar diabetes, blood pressure, inflammation leading to cancers and so forth. So sugar is really, it needs to be banned from the shops, from everywhere, or governed in terms of either being highly taxed. Because I talk about how during Christmas time I saw a lady who was not very small, and she was busy drinking a 2 liter of Fanta. You know how many teaspoons of sugars are in that 2 liter Fanta?
Maybe in its 50s.
It's 22 teaspoons.
22 teaspoons
of sugar. I mean, first she was big, Secondly, chances are she's probably has blood pressure, and chances are if she carries on that way, she won't live very long, because of what sugar does to your body. And if we had time, I'll go through the science of that, but that's an episode by itself. So, but that's part of also what I promote in our Growth Well podcast is good health and happiness. I even designed a happiness formula in the book of how to live, because happiness in terms of the ingredients apart from food.
I want to ask you about happiness as a question after you've told me about yourself.
We'll come to.
I want to know a little.
So my plan is to live longer, and I do all the things that are required. Like I said, exercise. I jog a lot. Part of why I also do farming is because living in nature is also part of how you hack the system, because nature is good to our systems, being in the sun and also having a lot of oxygen. And that's why I've been stuck in that trademark hotel for a week, and it's terrible.
You're feeling it.
Yeah, I'm feeling it. But I'm using the gym. They've got a very beautiful gym there, one of the best gyms I've ever seen, down by the trademark, by the village market. And I'm using that gym quite a bit. But yeah.
You were born, what did you want? Tell me a little bit about your life. Which town in Botswana are you born? How do you grow up? How many wives do you have?
How many wives? Yeah. I'm not Zulu. So I was born and bred in Botswana.
Okay.
I was born in a village called Good Hope.
Okay, Good Hope.
Yes. I told you that I'm a Morolong. The Rolong people who are on the southern part of Botswana, and lots of them on the South African side. So I've got relatives on the South African side. And then I went through primary school. My mother and father, those polygamy had gone away by that time.
Okay.
But in the 19th century, in the 1880s, my grandfather on my maternal side, he had 7 wives. So we are coming from a polygamist society. But obviously, with time, that has now given way, where other people find a way of having other relationships in an illicit manner. But that's a matter for another day. So I grew up there, primary education, and then went to university. As I said, I went to University of Botswana, which is the biggest university in Botswana. And then thereafter, I went to do engineering. So I did engineering in the UK, University of Southampton, where I did my up to masters, then came back. I was sponsored by the mining company. So I was sponsored by Diamond Money. in terms of going to university, and then came back and worked for that company where I worked as a up to manager level in a corporate, so it's a corporate environment. And that's where I found out, when you walk through life, you find out things that really matter for you, things that are important for you, things that work for you. So working for a corporate did not work for me. So 6 years was enough for me to work in that company till I negotiated my exit, because I'm really wired for entrepreneurship. That's my game. So I managed to negotiate out and to start my own business outside and do the things that were my contributions to Africa or to my people in Botswana, which is obviously running a business that is geared at helping Botswana to develop faster and so on. Yeah. So that's my background. Yes, and I have one wife. I have one wife, and her name is Nancy. And she comes, you asked earlier about the tribes in Botswana. So she comes from a tribe in the north called the Kalanga. So the Kalanga is the language is totally different.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, the Kalangas are on the Botswana side, also on the Zimbabwean side. So that's the border with Zimbabwe.
Those are another group of people that were cut in the middle.
Yeah, got it. You're getting educated, my man. Yeah. Totally cut in the middle. So I married, and then we have 4 kids, a son, 3 sons and a daughter. And they are now, as you said, I'm very old. Yes, I've got 4 granddaughters.
4 granddaughters?
Granddaughters, yes, beautiful.
Beautiful.
I don't want to die. That's why I don't want to die. I want to make sure that hopefully I walk them when they get married and celebrate and have great kids.
Why did you get married, though?
What a question. And we are sitting here in the Anglican church facility.
You know why I'm asking that question, Mr. Oabona?
Yeah.
Because a lot of young men right now are not interested.
That's true.
So then when I ask that question, I'm asking on behalf of the young men.
Yeah. Are you married yourself?
Yes, with 1 kid, 10 years, 10 years, 11 years in January.
Yeah, you got to do. If you believe in that, you got good genes, you better start having more kids, dude.
I can't afford it.
I can't
afford it with a podcast.
I always tell
afford it with a podcast.
I always tell I told my sons, I lived under a single mother.
Okay.
With the 4 kids. We ate soft porridge in the evening. We lived just on bread, simple life, and maize meal, and very little meat and all that. So sometimes you have kids, you don't have to have huge material wealth. So yeah. But you're asking me about?
Yes. Why did you? Okay.
Why did I get married?
Yeah. And I can improve the question.
Yeah.
By asking why do you keep at it?
Keep in marriage.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll get to that.
Yes.
Let's start with why I got married.
Okay.
Yeah, it's quite interesting how human beings work. We tend to fall into the practices that are in your society at the time. Okay. So obviously my parents got married. My uncles, my aunts are all married. So there's this societal move to say that is a norm. That's something that needs to happen. And obviously, I see that now, Kenya is also a very Christian country. So similarly, I grew up in the Roman Catholic Church. I was an altar boy, and my mother and her family were also brought up in a very Christian manner. So obviously, the church encourages marriage as well. So those are the pressures, I don't know if pressure is the right word, but the dynamics of society that lead you that I need to get married and settle after you got your career and that type of thing. So I followed the process. It's interesting because now what I teach, when I talk to entrepreneurs and society in general, when I do speaking, I encourage people to self-discover themselves and try to do things that align to who they are and as they evolve as adults, which is the state where I am now. I do things because not necessarily that society dictates, but that this is important for me or who you are. I mean, that's the beauty of the whole freedom movement across the world. It's a process that we've had more time I'll talk about, which is coming from a professor in Harvard called Robert Kegan, who has an adult development method where he says early on in your life, you tend to fit into what society says.
Okay.
You live up to the expectations of society. And then later on, different people evolve differently. You start saying, man. You say, no, but why can't I? Like you said, there are people now that have choice and say, why should I get married? I'm not fitted for marriage. I struggle with relationships and that type of thing, and they don't get married. As the world is getting freer and they got access to internet, they see other countries do it, other people do it. They see their heroes not being married. So we didn't have a lot of heroes that we saw in the internet, because now we have the internet, so you're exposed to all, some good, some bad. I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff that comes out of there. So it was a choice. It was a choice of a young man who got married at 29 years old. And also now to go to the further side where you say, why do you get married? And so as a man now evolving to dictate my line of life, questioning things, even marriage, even this, even saying what is the role of religion, especially against our Africanism, Pan-Africanism, because I'm more now a Pan-Africanist, because I think we got, earlier this year, I went to Ghana, I went to Kwame Nkrumah, who's, got the big signs that we should look forward, and we are really disappointing people like Kwame Nkrumah. So I'm now dictating, and it comes with age and maturity, where you start saying, no, not everything that the society wants you to do is actually right, and you can have your own line. My research on happiness, again going back to the why, the marriage, also confirmed that a happier man lives longer, and a married man is happier and lives longer.
Yeah.
So it also fitted onto my life purpose, because it is my interest to live happy. It's good to have someone in your home that's your companion, that helps you with problem solving, with the issues of life and all that, because one of the components of happiness is having good connections, and one of them is a romantic or a marriage setup, apart from your friends, apart from your family, and apart from a community in general. It is who you live with. That really can improve. Well, it can improve, or it can really destroy your quality of life if you've got the wrong partner. So that's something that is why I technically don't have a problem with someone who decides to divorce, because they feel that they've got the wrong partner, or they are no longer matching, and you should feel free to say, that's it, now I'm moving along. And then we avoid these frictions where people start fighting or even killing each other, which is a big thing in Southern Africa, where we've got a high cases of GBV, gender-based violence, where men typically start beating or killing their wives because the wives have decided that, I don't like our relationship, I want to move on. And then the guys get crazy. I don't know how it is in Kenya here, but
more or less the same.
In Southern Africa, it's crazy. So in South Africa, Botswana, Namibia, it's almost like a crisis there, where men. So that is where where they.
Botswana too?
Oh man, it's really bad. Where couples, or they feel that. I mean, why do you feel that someone cannot exit a relationship? I mean, it's crazy. Well, if it's not working. Or they found somebody that they feel they can live with them 40 years, they've lived with you 40 years, they can live another one. Those are the choices. And obviously with a lot of discussions and all that. But yeah, GBV is really bad, where people feel attached, or they feel the pressure to say that my status, if now I'm single, I'd rather kill, or I'd rather, maim someone, which is completely wrong.
Yeah.
So that's why also I married, and I'm still staying in marriage.
Okay.
And because
What is a wrong partner? For the Gen Zs that are asking.
Yeah. Look, there are a lot of dynamics around Gen Zs, and I would like to put two things up front, which is leading to Gen Zs not getting married and also not having kids.
Yeah.
Okay. One is the movement that was started in the West. And this is where we have a problem, because we like copying things. Okay.
Yeah.
There is the movement which was structured, where it started with the whole freedom movement, going back to John Locke, the philosopher, and all those guys that emphasize freedom and liberal democracy, where you say now you have to, don't go along with what democracy, freedom is a big thing in our society, which is obviously how America and Europe and so forth managed to evolve. But in the 19th century, a gentleman called Ralph Emerson came with his philosophy of basically encouraging hyper individualism, that you can do it by yourself.
Yeah.
You're with me. So that movement led also to the nuclear family, where you think what's important is your marriage instrument more than your bigger society.
Yeah.
So that led to a lot of hyper individual, where you think you are sorted, and that's leading to quite disastrous consequences. So we tend to follow the Americans, we tend to follow the Europeans in how we do things, and that's one of the ills that in my book we need to try and work towards rediscovering ourselves as Africans. So this individualism leads to a boy who passes his grades, goes to university, and he thinks, look, the big thing here is for me to make money, to be famous, even at the expense of relationships. So for him, going around with girls and all that is a waste of time. Okay, that's another thing. The other bad effect which contributes to this is obviously the internet. Our kids are even losing the skills of just courting because they are too much onto, I mean, if I give you, I can't recall now, the statistics of how many hours, especially the Gen Z, spend on their phones and smartphones. Now, you don't even, I mean, we used to go to, at night or during the day to go look for girls and learn the lines.
Yeah.
And you got to face the girl.
You got to face the girl.
Yeah, you have to face the girl. And
how about now?
Have some lines. Now they are stuck in their phones.
Yeah,
some of them even Google the lines and they send them by WhatsApp. So it's a different times where we need to do that. I mean, I'll give you a very horrific statistics. There's a gentleman called Scott Galloway, who's an expert on boys.
Yeah, Scott Galloway. Yeah, I like his latest book.
Yes, I've got the book. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
So he studied. I mean, he's got 2 boys, and he's also grew up very close to his mother.
Yeah.
And he,
the father left at some point.
Yes. So he talks all about that. So he says that from research, especially in the States, 45% of young men, 25 years old, they have not at 25 years they have not actually talked to a girl. And the statistics also show that not just girls or boys, lots of them in their 20s, they go to their 30s and they've had very little sex, even compared to our generation. I know you're a young man, but
yeah.
So this is even a threat in terms of just ensuring that our populations are kept going.
Yeah.
Because
they have shared that responsibility too.
Exactly. So because they're busy on their phones, they're busy on the wrong things, they're busy on individualistic, ego-driven type thing where money, pleasure, all those material worth are more important than these ingredients of life. And this is something that I talk about in the book in terms of recapturing our essence of what humans are here for on Mother Earth. Yeah.
You say that you're big on happiness. Mm-hmm. How do you, before you write it in your book, you talk about mental fitness, meditation and nature, sleep, spirituality and faith, nutrition, homeostasis. Yeah, and character and physical fitness.
Yeah.
But, how do you define happiness? It's having women and money, right?
Yeah.
What is a happiness?
Yeah. First, maybe let's start by putting some context to it.
Okay.
Because human beings are, can be very funny.
Okay.
So they've developed systems that have made man here is unisex, unhappy. The levels, and in the 70s and 80s, they started learning how to measure the levels of happiness for people and societies. And generally in the West, the levels of happiness are going down with huge repercussions where, as examples, there is a high uptake of drugs. The levels of mental health have gone up in the United States from the 1990s up to now. It's totally reversed. Even if the economy has gotten higher, they've gone richer but more unhappier. I mean, there is a story about, I know you must know Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
He interviewed 50 billionaires in the States. And in terms of happiness, he said, just from his observation and the intimate discussions he had with, he said, out of the 50, only 5 he can categorize as being happy. So this is a discipline that is evolving around the world, primarily because of the distress of things. One of it is individualism. I mean, loneliness, where we've now not living as a connected society, which us as Africans, we're still connected to your family, to your roots, but we're busy, throwing it out because we are copying the West in terms of the individualistic type approach. So all that are leading men to be extremely unhappy with the repercussions that I talked about. So when you define happiness, there are a lot of ways of defining it, but just in simple terms, it is basically, it is got components. We always say in terms of the indicators.
Okay.
If you are flying, for instance, you got a couple of indicators on a dashboard, and you got to look at them like that. There's no one measure of happiness. In other ways, like components, and they also have different weightings. Like I said, when you're flying an aeroplane as a pilot, there are different components that make sure that you are safely up there and flying, whether it's altitude, whether you are checking the fuel, whether you are checking that and all that kind of stuff. Same thing. And these are the components which I define in the book, which are extremely important for human beings. But before I get there, let's talk about the things that are moving men away from happiness. Okay? Because also those, they can go back to antiquity. Antiquity meaning even the philosophers of 2,500 years ago actually talked about happiness. Aristotle talked about, when he defined happiness, he defined a word called eudaimonia. Eudaimonia means flourish. In other words, he said even the role of government is to make men happy in terms of flourishing. And flourishing is not about pleasure. It's not about having material wealth. It's not about having lots of women. It's not that. It says it's when men or women actually flourish in life in total. And this is where now I come in terms of my definition. So that flourishing has got 4 components in my book. One of them is that you got to have moments of joy in your life. Okay, so I define the formula as joy rap. So you have to have joy in your life. You got to have, they call it, one of the experts called Martin Seligman calls it positive emotions. You got to be, remember when you're stressed, we got a lot of cortisol running in your body. You got to counter it with positive hormones like, dopamine, like serotonin, oxytocin. Those are all hormones that help you to be happier. And when you have those hormones, they actually increase your levels of immunity, they make you more vital, they make you more cheerful, and so forth. So you got to hack the system so that you have joys every day. This is where I do a lot of dancing, I do a lot of singing, you do things that keep your system happy.
You dance, you sing?
Even yesterday we had a dinner there. I showed the youngsters who thought they could dance. I showed them how Southern Africans dance. We're going to dance in Southern Africa called Pantsola Jive.
Yeah. Is there a lot of gyration with legs up in the air?
Yeah, no, they keep it there. They are, yeah.
By the way, she stayed in Botswana. She went to school in Botswana.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's interesting. We'll talk about it. Yeah. So the first thing is that in life, you got to create an opportunity for you to have fun. Have fun with your grandkid. Have fun, where you laugh a lot. So that's the first part, positive emotions. The second one, which is perhaps the most important of all, is connections. Human beings live for one another. In Africa, we talk about Ubuntu. You are because we are. In Botswana, we talk about Omoto Kabato Babamwe. You are a person because of others. Which means that we are social animals, basically. So this is one of the disruptions that's happening today, where people think they can be on their own and do things. Loneliness currently is one of the epidemics in the world that's killing people. They say the loneliness is almost equivalent to 15 packs of cigarettes a day. That's how deadly it is. It's actually killing people.
Loneliness.
Yeah, loneliness.
It's equivalent to 15 packs of
cigarettes in one day. That's what the experts and the researchers say. And they've got statistics because it is killing people. They are right now, just from the research, they say right now, there are 300 million people on earth who, within 2 weeks, they haven't spoken to anyone. Can you believe that? Look, you are laughing because in Africa, we still can't cope with that. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, we are going towards there. 300 million people in 2 weeks, and they haven't spoken to anyone. That's how bad it is.
Where are they living?
Yeah. People were living alone in their little. Remember as Africans, we used to have the compound with a lot of houses, and your uncle would be there. You'd be playing with your cousins, and I have that situation in the 70s where we used to play. But all that is gone. You don't talk to your cousin, you don't talk to your grandmother, you don't visit your grandmother. When the kids have to visit their grandmother, the family says, no, not this time, and all that kind of stuff. The kids grow up alone, they lock themselves in the bedrooms. You've got a teenager, he's still 10, isn't it? Yeah, you'll see. They lock themselves in the bedrooms, and they are stuck on their phones, and they don't visit their cousins. So this is the disruption to human happiness, to human flourishing. So that is the second one, which is I've got in the book as R. Relationship. So remember, joy, rep. So relationships is quality human connections. And I can give you a lot of research material that supports this, where people live longer. I don't know if you heard about the blue zones. The blue zones across the world, the 5 blue zones in the world, where people live longer and happier, and they have the highest concentration of centenarians. These are people who live up to 100 years old.
Okay.
You haven't heard of it?
Are you able to tell the internet more about that? Who are these people? Are they countries? Or
no, there are places in the world where research have located them to say, why do these people live so long?
Yeah.
So that's Sardinia in Greece. There's a place in Italy. There's a place in Costa Rica. There's a place in Japan as well, an island in Japan where people live so long. So they research them. There's a
place in Italy where I went to have an operation. It is by the sea. And oh God, those people are old.
They're old.
But they still take the tram by themselves.
They take what?
The tram.
Yeah,
they travel by themselves, and they're very
they're very fit, and they walk and all that, and they research all these things that I have in the book about J-Rap. Those people live that life. They have a lot of fun. I mean, in Greece, they have their parties. They have that glass of wine every day. They eat together. So there's a lot of laughter, a lot of that. So those things are still there in those areas. Unfortunately, they are changing because now the cities and influencers are coming, internet is coming in. A lot of them were very isolated. So they lived very traditional lives. And they ate real food, by the way. A lot of them actually planted their own food. So they ate organic food. And just by virtue of working in the garden, it's also an exercise program for you that helps with your longevity and vitality. That's why you can live out. I mean, there was one gentleman who was 100 years old. From this research, at 100, he could still jump on a horse and go and
100,
100 years old. And they are very socially neat. I mean, there's an example in Italy specifically where this family, they had an aunt who was very sick. And they took her to hospital, and she said, "I don't want any hospital." They took her. One of the sisters housed her in their home with the nieces and nephews and the family, and she lived a lot longer because of the care of the family, and they still have those extended families that work together. So I think you see where I'm going.
Yeah.
So connection and human connection is extremely important for human flourishing and human happiness. So that's R. The next one is E, which is engagement. We all need to be engaged with a profession that aligns to our natural talents that we've been given. That's why I always encourage people when they go into career to assess really what their talents are. When I worked for the corporate, when I told I worked for corporate, I actually found out that certain things, I'm an engineer by profession, mechanical engineer, but I found that actually I don't like engineering.
Yeah.
So I quit because I found that actually I'm very inquisitive about knowledge. I like helping companies to do better. That's how I walked into consulting. Okay, I liked my country. I found that my country was struggling with implementation of policies. And I said, okay, what's the profession? It's project management. So I went deeper into the art and science of managing projects for execution to help our government implement those policies. So that's where I found my thing. And then when you walk and you do a career or a profession that aligns to your talents, my man, you fly. In other words, you can get involved. Like I said, if you love podcasting right now, you can say, Joe, guys, we've been talking for 2 hours. You don't feel time stops.
Yeah,
that's exactly a big example of when you are doing something that doesn't bring anxiety, but gets all your juices flowing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that is engagement. And there's a chap who's researched a lot on that principle of flow. I don't know if you heard about the process of flow.
No.
Flow is when the challenge meets your top talent and you come together and they say you're in the element of flow. And there's a chap called Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi. He's a writer on the principle of flow. I would really recommend it for you because it's quite a deep psychologist who talk about that flow process where human beings, when they reach flow, that's when they are their best. Okay, so that's engagement. And then the next one, so J-Rap, and then R is the R, E is engagement, and the last one is purpose.
Everybody says there is no job, and that is true. Also, that was me 10 years ago. The problem is that everybody is trying to get a job in their own town, in their own city, in their marketplace. They ask friends for jobs, mothers call uncles, uncles call fathers, but there are no jobs, right? Let me tell you what no one is telling you. Jobs migrated online. What I actually mean is there are many, many jobs around the world and there is no one to do them. I have worked for a long time online, I think more than 10 years. I work for Americans, I work for Europeans, I work for the Chinese, the Australian, Canadians, the Ugandans, name all of them. And last year, I had a eureka moment. I said to myself, you know what? I should compile what I have been doing for the last 15 years. So in 2024, I wrote a book called Gold Mine, 18 Side Hustles for Africans. and it sold a lot of copies. In fact, sometimes I was receiving 500 orders in a day. In 2025, something happened. AI came. I think in 2025, AI came. AI came in 2024, but in 2025, it is here with us. And people say AI is taking away their jobs. And for me, I'll say false. There are actually AI jobs. Na mimi ni nani? I created more jobs. We now have in my book 25 online and offline side hustles that you can do anywhere in the world, whether you are in the village, whether you are in your small town, whether you're in a marketplace, whether you are in your house, you can do them. In this powerful volume 2, I share 25 new actionable online hustles specifically researched and tailored for Africans. My new book provides clear step-by-step guidance, drawing from my extensive experience and research, including the mistakes I have made and lessons I have learned over 15 years in this online job market. You can become an executive assistant to busy folks in Europe, America, and Canada. You can also get paid for tasks like watching videos and taking online surveys. There are many of them and they're in my book. You can also build a business as a virtual assistant, start an e-commerce without a shilling. You can also become an affiliate marketer or an online English tutor. And you can also do tens of AI jobs, and they're all in these books. If you have a job, that is fine, but I know around you there are so many people that are always looking for jobs and at home watching Netflix. Buy this book for your brother, for your sister, for your mother, cousin, husband, who is back at home all day, all night watching Netflix. Okay? Buy it for your friend, that friend who is always asking you for cash, you can buy this book for them. All the information is in the description below. You can also inbox me, you can WhatsApp me, or you can go to my website, which is oduorjagero.co.ke. The book is only 1,000 Kenya shillings. Or if you're anywhere around the world, the book is $10.
You know, I was speaking to a conference 2 weeks ago in South Africa. And I stopped and asked them who actually has a purpose statement. In other words, simple. What do you live for? You know, the things that people do for companies, they don't do for themselves. Can you believe it? I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. Because those have a sense of purpose, my brother, they live 7 years longer.
Because what is your purpose?
Yeah, my purpose.
Yeah, your purpose statement.
My purpose statement is very clear. It is to assist or support my country and Africans with basically positively impacting their lives using insights, ideas, and technology. That's why I talk technology in terms of AI. We talked about AI earlier on. So when I talk AI and what it can do to the development of Africa, I'm on top gear. Okay, when I look at how unhappy and how we run on Western principles against what we should be, it touches me and I try to impact them positively. Every time I walk into a conference and I talk happiness and thriving, you could see the temperature in the room rising, with people being more optimistic, looking more to life. I said, oh, okay, I can actually quit this job and find the job that fits my talent. So that's my purpose. When I do that, even my podcast, the Growth Well podcast. Oh man, the number of young people that have said
it's a very happy podcast.
We have said exactly.
Oh, it's a very happy podcast.
No, thank you. I mean the youngsters who've come to me.
What is the name of your podcast to the people so that they
can? It's called Growth Well podcast.
Yeah.
So just go to YouTube and you find Growth Well. Growth is growth, and you are feeding from a well with nutrients. You know, nutrients.
Growth Well podcast.
It's the water hole, the African water hole. So it's Growth Well, and I'm saying we are feeding with ingredients that can lead to your growth, basically. And the Growth Well podcast that is there on YouTube and all the others, Facebook and LinkedIn and so forth. So I've even started it because I just wanted to share knowledge, because I'm one who loves knowledge and the frontiers of what's going to happen and what's going to happen in the future. So for me, we didn't even do it to monetize. It was just really I just took off.
It's very good. You are very good at interviewing.
Oh, thank you.
Very good.
I appreciate it.
Mental fitness.
Let me just finish.
Yes.
Yeah. So on purpose, because I want to encourage encourage your listeners to sit and actually write their purpose statement. If they follow the Growth World podcast, I also describe how to write it and the components of writing your purpose statement, because it's a critical thing. And again, I like referring, if you want to have a literature depth in terms of reading something, I always recommend a book called Man's Search for Meaning, a book by Viktor Frankl. I don't know if you know the book. The guy who was in the chambers and under the.
When I started reading Galloway, I got to a lot of them.
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy who was stuck in the chambers during the
Holocaust.
The Holocaust, and he was there for 4 years, and he saw a lot of death around him, and he said he survived purely because he had a purpose. He had a purpose in life in terms of what he wanted to do to human beings, and he saw a lot of people around him fading away and dying simply because just talking to them, they didn't have a purpose statement. So a purpose statement during bad times, that it'll keep you going. It makes you wake up in the morning. Okay, so that's joy and rap. And I said that equals true happiness. True, I said true because there's a happiness of pleasure and material wealth, and that's very cheap and doesn't get you anywhere. And that's what I try to discourage youngsters to say. Fame and when you rely on the number of likes you get on the internet, that's not going to give you anywhere. Look at these things. If you have joy in life, if you have good relationships, and make sure you invest in people don't even know how to make friends anymore, my friend. That's how bad it is. You meet people and people don't know how to start.
Yeah.
Because the art is gone, because you don't spend enough time, chatting to people. I mean, I'm even with this Stanford Seed, for which I'm here for, where we've got these 110 entrepreneurs that we are supporting through the Stanford program. We encourage them to network and talk, and some of them admit that they don't know how to start.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's unnatural. You know what I mean? So so purpose is a big thing, and just to sum it up, basically,
how to write it.
Not how to write it, but in the book it details what those components are. But I just wanted to sum it by saying the typical trend right now is guys want to be successful, and they think when they're successful, they'll be happier. But I tilt it around and say you got to be happier first, then success will come. You're with me?
Why are you reversing it?
I'm reversing it because going for success, there are people that died with trying to chase success, and they've never been happy in their lives.
Yeah.
That
is how he found out Tony found out that the billionaires only 50.
Thank you. They get the money and they're like, I mean, even let's give an example of closer to Africa. Trevor Noah.
Yes.
He did the show in the States. The Daily Show.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you watched this podcast with the Diary of the CEO with Stephen, where he was admitting that he actually was not having a good time anymore. That's why he had to quit, because we were quite surprised why he was quitting, because now what he was doing was not aligning to his purpose and what he wanted to do. That's why he quit the show. So you got to look at that. In other words, being a top boy and in top money with the Daily Show, although everybody would die for it, does not necessarily make you happy. There are a lot of entrepreneurs that have. I mean, in Botswana 2 years ago, we had a 72-year-old man, a top entrepreneur in Botswana, committing suicide. Because he had all the wealth. He was, he had a lot of buses around Botswana. He was a top bus and transport mogul in Botswana, but he committed suicide. Kate Spade, one of the top designers in the world, fashion lady, billionaire, committed suicide. Okay, and I can name a couple of others that. We're trying to say money. Obviously, you need a certain level of money so that you can be able to do the happy things. So let's not say money is not part of the equation. Okay. And they've even estimated the amount of money that you need, that when you get to that threshold, then you should be able to be happy. Anything beyond that does not make any difference to your happiness.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's about, I think it's $45,000 in the States, if I'm not mistaken. That's what they've got. If you end that on an annual basis, you've got your basic to be able to lead a happy life.
45,000 USD.
Yes, USD.
That's about 7 million Kenya shillings.
Yeah, in your shillings.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. It sounds like a lot, but obviously in your exchange rate, that's a different matter. Yeah. So that's the formula that I'll really encourage, and that's why with my experience with my colleagues trying to run businesses, looking at the young people in terms of mental health disaster. Southern Africa right now, your Botswana, your South Africa, your Lesotho, they lead in the number of suicides that they have in Africa. The top 10 is dominated by Southern African countries in terms of suicides. The mental health is on the rise. Bad health, I told you about the sugar, the what. So all the indicators are going the wrong way. And this is my point. We will not get Africa rise if we've got a sick and unhappy constituency, 100%. And that is why I invest so much into this. And I go around Africa saying, these are the things that you can do to make sure that even if you're an entrepreneur because you want to be an entrepreneur. And I define to them what is a good entrepreneur. And I define it for them to say, don't have a sense of entitlement. Start by saying you're not going to be relying on the system for your own economic security. Because that's not an entrepreneur. So I define all those things basic for them to know how they could be able to hack the system to be able to live a happy life. And ignore, don't be suffocated and go along with all you get from CNN, from what, because unfortunately as Africa, we are not defining our own narrative. Someone was saying the other day that, the West has got BBC, it's got CNN that is bombarding us with narratives, and the movies are all coming from there. And now the Arabs, they've got their own Al Jazeera, so they're going to. Africans don't have our own channel.
Yeah.
We don't have our own narrative. And what happens? We are doing disservice to our kids. So our kids now rely on this narrative, and we fight our kids. I give you a very cultural example. My son went to the UK for school, right? And I have friends whom I was roommates with who are living in the UK. And when he went to school, he used them as a home. Okay. Now, in my culture, when someone is elder, like I'm your elder brother, you're supposed to say, Abuti wa Oabona. Abuti wa Oabona is just a connotation depicting that I'm older than you and giving me a little bit of respect, yes. Okay? Because I'm older, okay? And then obviously you have the uncles and all that. You don't call your uncle by saying, hey, Odori,
Yeah.
You have a way of qualifying it. So now, one time he calls me and says, hey, Papa, I'm enjoying it here. Why are you enjoying it? It's because, you try to encourage me to call Auntie Laura and Uncle Pratha, but no, they don't allow. I really enjoy calling them Laura and Pratha. I'm like, you're dead. You're dead. Dad, you're not coming into my house saying those stuff, because that's not the Africanness.
Yeah.
Just that respect. Our forefathers did not design it just for that. And the fact that in the West, you watch movies and a youngster is music calling old men, hey, Peter, come here. That's not how we do things. And what is bad, what thing that really concerns me is that the West as well, it's lost its own cardinal points. They're at a point where there's so much mental health, my brother, that they are now seeking answers back in Africa.
Exactly.
They are studying our ancient tribes to find out how we live, and they are borrowing those concepts. So we should look at our grandfathers, we should look at our ancient tribes that are still living in the old way and pick up the good habits, like the Hazab tribe in Tanzania, which has been studied by universities in the States, like what they call the Bushmen or the San and Khoi people who are in Southern Africa. Some of them are still living the old style. They still have joy. They still, when they chill in the evening after having their meal jointly, they start dancing. So don't be embarrassed to dance, because the West, the guys are stuffy, they wear suits, and they think that I'm a big guy and I'm driving an SUV and all that. So we are copying all those things. You think a BMW and all that. No. There are things which are more important than that, other than material wealth.
You've talked about, in your book, you talk about mental fitness, because I think it is very important. By the way, when you talk about African movie, the American movies, I used to love this movie called, what is the name? I've forgotten the name. It was done by Keith Sunderland. It's called 24. And the other day I was talking to my wife and I was telling her that I would not watch that movie in 2026, that series. It was like 7 seasons.
Okay.
So I loved it so much and I used to enjoy it a lot. But when I went back to it, because I wanted to rewatch it, and I couldn't go past the first episode because I began to see through it. Like, okay, why is it that we're just having these people that are Muslims as terrorists throughout the movie?
The narrative.
Yeah. And I was really like I used to enjoy the main character, hounding these guys like pigs and killing them. And I just realized, no. They can't be all terrorists.
Amen. We have forced ourselves to be victims.
So I realized, but talk to me a little bit about mindset. Because I think The other day, I was speaking to a friend of mine, and she was asking me why I no longer work with some people that I used to go around with. And I was telling her that I was really struggling with them because every time I looked at where they're going, they were not going where they're supposed to be. I couldn't figure out who they were. I tried doing different things with them, but we were just sort of stuck. And we sort of simplified our lives too much. And we were not able to get the bare minimum of what life should be. We are educated, we are people who are highly creative, but I don't see it. We are retrogressing, you know? And sometimes when somebody asks me about the price of my phone, I don't want to say because of the reaction. You know, how much is that camera? I don't want to tell them that it is $6,000. You know, I don't know whether do we really have to get a particular mindset. I was telling you because I think my mindset is still very it's not mature enough. So when you tell me that you've got 10,000 acres, it's suddenly too big. When I
hectares.
Yeah, hectares. Yeah,
Not acres.
I imagine that is more than 10,000 acres. I don't know which one is more.
Yeah, hectares are bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I see your video of somebody having 110,000 hectares. You see, but then I think that at some point you reach in your life that you can be able to grasp something and say, I can do it. It is within range. I can run those kilometers.
Yes.
I can run that marathon. How do you get to that mindset where things are not mountains are not so big the way you look at them? Yeah.
No, that's so true. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, the example of 10,000 hectares and all that is interesting because I once hosted some friends who came to the farm to have a look and all that, and one of them stopped me and said, "How does it feel to have so much land?" And you know what was bizarre, my brother, is that I actually hadn't thought about it. I was thinking about the farming.
Yeah.
Because I first had a piece of land which was 3,700 hectares, which was 6 kilometer by 6 kilometer. And I tried to run the farm profitably. And I could, in Botswana, as you said, it's arid.
Yeah.
So you can only put so much cattle per hectare effectively. So you have to put few cattle there's a stocking rate that we use as a benchmark. So the 6 by 6, you could only have about 200 cattle effectively, breeding stock.
Okay.
To be able to breed. And where it was isolated, it actually did not make profit. So that's when I said, I need more land. So it was a very business-driven, efficient farming process to actually get to 10,000 hectares. You're with me? So actually, it took me aback. I was like, oh, okay. But not naive to think that people will be shocked because, you know, I used to go to Canada a lot. And when I told them about 10,000 hectares, they just fell off. Yeah, and they think it must be some billionaire, you know, Bill Gates. It's like, no. In Botswana, we have lots of land, so it's not and we need that to keep a certain number of cattle profitably. Okay. That's the essence of it. But going back to mindset, really, you know, the human beings are under attack by things that we've created. Currently, we're looking at AI. And AI, there's two elements to it. There's dystopia and utopia. Dystopia is where it's going to damage human beings in a big way. Utopia is if we use it for the development of human beings. And my prediction is that it's going to do more damage than good in terms of that. It's an example of the internet. The internet is a good thing. It's really democratized information and things for a lot of people. But at the same time, the examples that we gave, I'm one of those that are still, for instance, I had told myself that every evening at 7:30, I put my phone away. But I still do it with difficulty. I'm struggling. And this is the discipline of mental fitness, because a lot of people, you find a guy fit, going to the gym, really, solid and everything. And you talk to him like you're talking to your face, like, Jesus, guys, big problems. Maybe he's beating up his wife, or his philosophy of life is all messed up and that type of thing. And that is the principle of saying you can't just look after your physical fitness that you're going to exercise every day without looking after your mental fitness. That's where it comes in. Mental fitness means looking at, for instance, your level of discipline. To say, I don't know if you read the book about Atomic Habits.
Yes.
Having make sure that you have a discipline, to have habits. For instance, the things that I had to induce in my life that are aligned to what things that I want to do, that help me with my mental fitness as well, is that I read a lot. So I make sure that in the morning when I have breakfast, so usually what I do, I wake up and then I do sort of 12, 15 minutes of exercise every day. Okay, push-ups, sit-ups, whatever, stretch and all that. Then I do a cold shower. Even this morning I did a cold shower. So a cold shower has got certain physiological and mental benefits.
Which ones?
Some people have replaced coffee with cold shower because it just sparks again your positive hormones, your dopamine, and you become alive when you have a cold shower. So I have a cold. Now, it's very difficult to have a cold shower.
Yeah.
I'm trying to promote it everywhere, and everyone's like, please try another one.
Yeah.
So everybody, and that's mental, because we, human beings have been built through toughness. You got to, when I look at my sons, if they're not able to deal with things that are difficult, like being disciplined to go through a cold shower, it means that you'll not be able to deal with some of the tough things of life. There's a Roman emperor by the name of Marcus Aurelius. He talks about how the obstacle is the way. You can't, and another book that says that, that God comes through the wound. In other words, and this is how I managed to make peace with the world, because of the struggles that I have in the book. Because my father was very abusive to I talk about in the book, was very abusive to my mother, and my mother really struggled to bring us. But you might say, by statistics wise, I should have been either a troubled boy, but I used those as fodder for good things through both physical and mental habits that are important. And some of them I learned from my past, like my grandfather. I used a lot of example about the things that I picked from my grandfather in terms of this thing of endurance, of exercise, of the habits. My grandfather woke up early morning every day. We'll give him tea at when it was still dark in the morning, like 4 a.m. He'll wake up that early. That's discipline. For me, that's discipline. There's a particular time when you go to the kraal. There's a particular time when the kettles go to graze. There's a particular time that they come back to graze. That routine, it doesn't look sexy and what, but my belief is that is what we're supposed to do as human beings, to be able to be disciplined with certain habits that improve your mental capability. And that is why the reading, as I talked about the reading, I read. Once I've done the cold shower, then I go have a cup of coffee.
You've gone very fast over something.
All right.
That is very important.
Yeah.
I want to give you a little bit about my story in 30 seconds. So my father struggled a lot with alcohol, and the relationship between him and my mother was a bit dubious. They fought a lot, and it was just a very terrible life. When I grew up, my cousins slept around a lot.
What do you mean slept around? What do you mean?
Like, I don't know whether that's a culture, but you can imagine. So it's not a pretty sight.
Mm-hmm.
So my uncle was living in Thika, and so his house in the homestead was taken over by the boys. So that is where they would sleep.
Okay.
Up to 6 or 7 of them.
Mm-hmm. Boys.
Yes. And every night they will be having girlfriends.
Oh, your cousins.
Yes. And it's a pretty crazy life. And then there was alcohol in the family. My brother was a drunkard. My younger one was also a drunkard. My 2 sisters were married off pretty early, and they were having a lot of trouble with their family. My grandfather was also not very, very good man, based on the things that I saw him do most of the time. So when a lot of people ask me why I did not follow the trend.
That's right. That's right.
And you're talking about it, and you're moving faster through it. You've said something that is very important, that I turned it into fodder. Your trauma, perhaps.
Yes.
You turned it into fodder.
That's right.
And I think a lot of people suffer with the fact that their background is really, really dirty, quote unquote, and they can't deal with it. And so these demons shadow them everywhere,
correct.
and they're not able to turn it around and have a good life. So when you talk about turning your trauma and your background into fodder, how do you do that?
Yeah, look, it's not typical textbook stuff.
Okay,
That's why I should be careful to simplify it too much.
yeah,
Because not too many of us. I mean, first, well done. I mean, that's amazing that you look like you've grown up to be a good boy.
largely.
So
When I told people that I got married virgin, nobody has ever believed me. Never.
yeah. So then that is why my brother, it's so important that you share this information. I have not grown up as a very open person who talks about these things. I think we all both know Scott Galloway quite well.
Yeah.
In some of these podcasts, when he talks about his family and his mother, he actually starts crying, when he was being interviewed by Steve. So it's not easy. That's what I'm saying. But that is therapeutic in itself, the fact that you are talking about it. So the way I evolved from it was, and it's interesting, the older you get, the more reflections you get of that times of trauma. Like mine, I don't know whether we shouldn't be comparing it by my father was an alcoholic, a real alcoholic, and I talk about it in the book for many, many years till my mother decided to leave the marriage and be on her own and growing, basically taking care of us as a single mother for a very long time, which in itself, being brought up in a home without a father, it's got its own negative connotations. But in my case, like I said, unfortunately, my mother was a very family-centered, where we used to get exposed to our uncles, where I learned a lot from my uncles. They were good uncles in terms of the way they brought up. They were married. They had good families. They had good culture, and the whole family had a certain values that they espoused as a family. So for me, first of all, I struggled with, as every man, with the concept of going to therapy. So what I do is, I believe that in Africa, especially that we are going so fast in terms of our mental disorder and going through that we need to make sure that therapy is available more. A lot of African countries don't have enough therapists to deal with the challenges that we have. Because and I now believe that therapy should not just be for those that I say are on the negative side. You have anxiety, depression, and all that. It can still be above zero. In other words, you seem normal and okay, but you can still seek therapy to talk about where you come from, because the psychologist will be able to pick certain trends and make you reflect in a very structured way. So in other words, psychology should be democratized and available for people to be supporting, particularly now, because now you don't have your uncle, you don't have your auntie down the road where it used to be like in the village, where you go see your uncle and tell your uncle what the problems are. Your uncle will start coaching. We had access to elder people. Now we don't. I mean, I always encourage my sons, please visit your uncle, what. The uncles are also busy everywhere, so we are not coming together. So that thing can be replaced by your traditional therapist. Unfortunately, you can't get a letter from the doctor and get your medical if you are a okay person, because obviously if you are depressed, you can get a thing like that. So I thanks to my wife, he really introduced me to therapy, so that really helped a lot. And also I think just a natural, because we should never take away the gene part of your personality. Let me give you a formula that was designed by a lady called Sonja Labomirsky. He's a happiness scientist at Riverside University, California, and she said 50% of our personality is derived from your genes. In other words, you behave the way you are because of your grandmother or your mother or your father or whoever. In other words, if you're an angry person, part of it is from your genes. Maybe you should blame your grandmother because she was angry. Okay, so that's one. And this is through tests that were done through twins which were separated at birth and letting them go the other way. And they found that there's certain attributes that were from the genes in terms of those either fraternal or those that were alike. And then there's a 50% left. They found that 10% happiness was due to your circumstances. So 50%, whether you're a happy or an unhappy person, comes from your genes. And then the other 10% comes from your circumstances. In other words, whether you are married, whether you're a handsome guy, whether you are rich, whether you are in a certain country or certain town, that's only 10% of your happiness. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
It's
all your
interesting.
money, all your your wife, your husband, your children, your house,
the size of your house, it don't matter.
That's really tiny.
Only 10%. And guess what the 40% left is?
No.
The 40% is up to you in terms of your intentional habits that you invoke by yourself. And I can go back to the Stoic philosophers and all that in terms of how you need to take control. So what I did, as I told you, after I left the mine, I discovered that I can take charge of my life. That's a very phenomenal thing, my brother. Taking off, these days they talk about intentionality and that type of thing. I talk purpose, but it means that you assess your life. I even did a self-assessment of what are the things that are important to myself. Okay, there are a lot of assessment tools available. I always tell people that different. I did one which was developed by a guy called Professor Seligman out of UPenn University, where I looked at my signature strengths and found out what are the things that make me tick. Because when you fall into things that make you tick, you remain a very positive person. You remain a very optimistic person. And you got positive emotions that trigger your good hormones that make you a happier person. You see, now you are hacking the system to align with you.
Exactly.
You're with me, which a lot of people are just drifting, my brother, around. They bump onto
dropping that. In the dark.
Exactly. And then you get surprised that you're not happy, you're healthy, and you end up drinking a lot.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
And this is again something that I've seen amongst my peers.
Sure.
We have conversations all over the place. And we say that, look, this is what we should do in order for this to work. I remember this podcast. I have this podcast room and there is a twin the other side. So now podcasting for me has really ballooned in the last 4 years.
Okay.
One of the leading political podcasts that we do in the other room is called Political Headache.
Okay.
This one...
And it's still hosted by you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dialogues with Jagero did not start as Dialogues with Jagero.
Okay.
It started as something else with friends. Okay? But then when we started as friends, the friends that we started with were not seeing what I was seeing. And so everything fell on my shoulders. And it was such a huge weight trying to, organize two other men. And I also see other people starting their small things. But they touch it once, they touch it twice, and then it's not having any life. And then they say, well, I've watered this thing for like 6 months, it's not sprouting, it's not flowering. They abandon it. And then 3 years later, 4 years later, you just see them in the same place. All right? And in my head, I'm like, if you did it consistently for 18 months, we would be seeing something different. And this goes back to, I think, entrepreneurship and building something.
And resilience and grit.
Yeah. What is it that make people just touch things and leave them to die and wither?
The best way, it's interesting, we're sitting in a church,
in
a cathedral thing, because one thing before I get to that is that what really sort of opened my life was the reading. Sometimes you ponder over questions and you wonder what's the answers. And I read widely. As you said, I was quoting the Stoics. I read a lot about Stoic philosophy. I read a lot and I watch guys in the African philosophy. I've started reading the African series, the Chinua Achebes and what. I read a lot of psychology. I'm quoted Professor Seligman and Labomirsky and all that. All that gives you a variety of options, People like Carol Dweck who talk about grit, and that type of thing. You say, oh, so I was gritty there. How can I improve? That's something that's good. How can I improve the grittiness? So I just would like you and the viewers to say, don't read stuff in your line alone. There's, I grew up in like I said, a very religious family, went to church, was an altar boy and that type of thing. But I read books by atheists. Some people get shocked when they enter and they read The God's Delusion, Or there's even a very beautiful book written by a guy, I forget his name, which I read a lot, who says, Being Good Without God. Oh man, that's a wonderful book. So and they challenge me. They say, why do you read? You are and especially Africans. Yeah. Africans are so attached to religion and Christianity.
Devil worshipping.
Even some of the podcasts that I show, there's the guy that I don't know if you saw it, is a father in a Roman Catholic who quit the church.
Okay.
So I interviewed him. And he was talking about the negativities of church versus what he wanted. Apparently, a lot of elders were very angry with me. They were saying, we thought Oabona is a good guy.
He's bringing all this dirt into the church.
Exactly. And what I'm opening up is that you got to look at things from different angles and different perspectives for you to grow. So in my 30s and 40s, when I read these things, they also really exposed my life to different things. Like you said, you got to look after. I always say, happiness is an inside job. You've got to take charge of those things that are important, including parting with friends who are not productive to your life, who are not productive contributing to your purpose statement, and those that are chipping away your happiness by being negative or being drunkards or whatever. I have a lot of friends that have fallen off. You can even create your own family members. There are people that are so good and you feel so warm even visiting them. It's like, that's a family I never had. You know what I mean? So feel open about those type of things. Meeting new friends. I mean, right now with the SEED program, I went to Ghana, I'm meeting guys from Benin, from Gabon, from Ethiopia, just opening up new avenues of friendship. And also I'm very curious about human beings, how they behave, the things they say, the way, all that. So all that educates you and makes you really, really rounded as a human being. It not only does it drive happiness, it also drives a lot of resilience. Those guys that do things for a little bit and quit, it's all the signs of grit and resilience. And I'm not saying, I always try to qualify when I talk about resilience, because you cannot be stuck with something just because you already started. I also talk about learning how to quit. Because if
it's not working.
Yeah, it's not working, you got to know that it's time to change. I mean, I've had businesses that I decided to shut them down because it was not working. They were causing me a lot of anxiety. They were stressing me and I had to shut off. Like I said, even friends, even family members. You got family members that are toxic. You got to decide to say, this is how I'm going to protect myself and my family against this toxicity coming from this uncle, this aunt, this niece, whoever it is. You know what I mean? Even if you can be helpful, see how you can help, but you got to make sure that you take charge about your life. Now, talking about entrepreneurship, not everybody is an entrepreneur, my man. Statistics says that only 5% of society is really true entrepreneurs.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And when you talk about, perhaps contextualize what entrepreneurship is actually.
Yes,
is it selling? Is it selling groundnuts at the marketplace?
So long as it's solving something, there's no problem.
So
if
what
there's
is
a
it?
demand for groundnut, okay.
Yeah.
This is very important. There is a French philosopher in the 19th century called John Baptiste DJ. I don't know how to spell. It's French, so I'm probably
it's
totally
just as hard as your name.
Yeah.
It's your
John
first name.
Baptiste DJ, yeah. But I know that I'm saying it in English, but it's actually French, and the French guy said it very beautifully.
Okay.
So he came up with a definition that has really inspired me, and it's also supported by one of my mentors, Dan Sullivan. He's a coach for entrepreneurs in Canada. And he says, an entrepreneur is someone who takes a system from a lower level of productivity to a higher level of productivity and increased level of yield. Okay? In other words, you find something that's lower and you're able to add value to it so that you can you sell it, or it's a service or it's whatever, but it's at a high level of productivity in simple terms. And I bring in two questions that you have to bring about when you start thinking that you're an entrepreneur. First of all, they are very, very independent people. In other words, the big question they ask is that when I go into this venture, I'm not going to be dependent on government, on systems, on what for my own economic security. The second question is that I will not, up until the opportunity gives me the value, I will not seek money first. You're with me? In other words, I'll work on this till the value is created, and then the money will come from the opportunity. Okay, so value is a very important. Even when I coach entrepreneurs, I always, what is the value? What is that problem that you're solving that maybe it's even unique, that can add value to society? That's what entrepreneurs, I mean, what Dangote is doing, what Elon Musk, although he's a bit crazy, what he's doing is solving. I mean, right now we have internet in the villages because of Elon Musk. So we've got to thank him. He's an entrepreneur in terms of how he thinks. So that's what it is. And I like to, because a lot of people that quit civil service or public service and they think they can be an entrepreneur, I've seen them getting bent because these are people that are reliant on the system for their own. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're just not an entrepreneur. Leave it to the entrepreneurs. Okay, so that's entrepreneur. And then in terms of entrepreneurship, there are a couple of things there, and one of them is obviously the grittiness, being able to stick with something till it gives results. And I think earlier on I did say you still have to watch it because it's got to be something that's aligned. Again, it goes back to the joy rap where it has to align to who you are, so that you do it without anxiety. Even if there are struggles, you have a sense of purpose, and it's with people. The value that you do, it has to be with people that I always say you do not run a business or entrepreneurship unless you love people. If you're working with people,
right?
So don't run a business unless you love people.
Otherwise, what do you mean?
What I mean
what
is
do you
that
mean by
the value is created by people, and you work with people. So if you are a leader, remember an entrepreneur is a leader. Now, if you are a leader, you cannot be able to motivate, coach, engage, and do all the things that are required to get the most out of those people, which is leverage the talent that they have for you to be able to drive the business value. Okay. In other words, you can't just say, hey, I'm starting a podcast and I've got these 5 young people, and you treat them as just data, as subjects. The way they look at you, the way you relate to them. And I'm saying this because currently there was a Gallup survey that was done on the workplace in Southern Africa. I particularly looked at Botswana and South Africa, and it's really, really bad in terms of how our people are engaged, the poor levels of engagement, the poor levels of thriving, even to the extent of pessimism within the workforces within Southern Africa are way, way below benchmark. In other words, other countries are a lot higher. And this is where Africa, the problems are. The problems are also how we lead our own people. I don't know if you're with me.
Yeah.
And you can't lead people unless you love people. And there's research also supporting that the leadership that gets the most and get able to scale an organization are those leaders that are truly human. If you are truly human, and then it goes back to Ubuntu. I don't know what you call Ubuntu here in Kenya, but you go back to Ubuntu where the organization for it
is that Undugu. Yeah.
It's Udungu, yes.
Undugu,
yes. In Botswana we call it Botu, but it's got different names across Africa, which is humaneness in the end. So that humaneness, the loving of the people. I mean, and it's part of hacking happiness. Imagine working with teams that are happy, they run to your business, and you treat them, and you don't abuse them, and you even during struggles, the guys, I can't pay you, it's better to say we are with you, leader. Because you know that during good times, you're giving us bonuses. When you don't just keep the money to yourself. We are with you. You're with me. That's extremely important for your own health as well. Because there are leaders that when they walk into the office, everybody runs. And it's everybody feels like, I just came through the door. And they've told me, because I do consulting.
Everybody runs away.
Come on. It's like, so I don't know what these business schools are doing, but people terrorize workers. And the data supports it. Like I said, the data supports that they're really terrorizing. So that's a key component, because I don't want to work for my businesses like that, because I like to walk in, they come and hug you, you laugh together, they tell you, Mr. K, I've got this problem, can you help me based on your lots of experience, and we work on it, and I love coaching stuff. I like the way working with teams. During COVID, it was very difficult. Every time sometimes they resign for good reasons because we really train and develop our staff. So they go for, greener pastures because the young people like when they go to 10,000, improvement in their pay slip. They're gone, So they do that, and I tell them that I miss you, and I am really quite sad that you are leaving. So you actually miss them because there's an emotional attachment to employees other than just them being subjects in the business. So that's extremely important.
Yeah. There is one nutrition. I think we are almost 1.5 hours into this podcast, right? It is baked in my head. The click.
Yeah, I know.
What time is it? I so told you.
Yeah.
And I don't have a watch. I can see.
Yeah, you've been around the block a couple of times.
But I want to talk about nutrition and health because I think I stopped eating. I found out at some point that I was really doing badly with inflammation because of gluten and lactose.
Yeah.
Right. When somebody asks you, how do I become healthy? Where do we start?
Yeah, around nutrition.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, as I say, humans do things that are quite bizarre. And I'm saying from a business point of view, when you ask CEOs, okay, and leaders, entrepreneurs, there are KPIs. You'll tell me KPIs for their business performance. You'll tell me the number of subscribers. And I ask you, tell me about your health status. Give me about your KPIs, about levels of inflammation, your sugar figures,
I don't
your
know.
blood pressure. Oh man! And then the next thing your family hears that you've collapsed. Because for 3 days, your blood pressure.
He collapsed while talking to a witch from
Oabona.
Africans just don't die.
Yeah,
there was a witch from Botswana.
Yes. And we're joking. There are a lot of executives that fall and they've had attacks right there. And I said, I know exactly what happened. This guy probably had a elevated blood pressure. It was day 1. It was day 2 because they don't check it. It keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and suddenly they have a stroke. Now the toys or the gadgets for monitoring, they're like, I don't know what. Yeah, I think 400 pula will be about 4,000 shillings. It's actually not expensive.
Yeah, even
when you have a headache.
Even the Apple Watch has it.
Yeah, no, I was thinking, even there are watches, there what that you can monitor. So it's very easy to check, and it's because you have nieces, you have sons and daughters. Why don't you look after yourself? But you know what I mean. What I'm saying is we are too driven by material and all that, sometimes at the expense of your own health because of that success before happiness type formula. So that's the first thing. And I encourage everybody to say, if you can afford it, see your doctor more regularly, 3 months if it's possible, especially if you live a very stressful thing, so you can check your figures because guys are dying. Cancer is up within Africans. Blood pressure is up. Sugar diabetes is up. Cancer is all to do with inflammation and all that. And now we can get to nutrition, which is quite a fundamental. Now, food is medicine. Food is not shuffling your stuff and messing up your tummy. 70% of your immune system, my brother, comes from they call it the microbiome. That's your gut. That's where you got millions and millions of enzymes or that are operating here. Okay?
There are really millions.
Yeah, there are millions of them. So if you mess them up with your food, it messes up your brain. It can lead to dementia by eating the wrong things because your nutrient sensing things are very sensitive to the type of food that you are. Let's give an example of the sugar. Once you eat something that's high in sugar, now insulin is obviously generated from the pancreas. Now the pancreas is like a valve. When you keep having a lot of sugar spikes, in other words, you're having a biscuit, the next thing you're having a bread, the next thing you're having a fizzy drink, that's a day. Those are all sugar spikes. After 10 years, after 5 years, the insulin from the pancreas is trying to balance your glucose. So in the end, it gets tired of it. And I call it a valve. The valve runs out and doesn't operate properly because you are bombarding it with all this trying to correct your glucose levels in your body. So it packs up, and what happens? Then you get type 2 sugar diabetes. In the worst case, it obviously can lead, but type 1 mainly comes from inheritance and young stars. So There's a very clear formula of what we are doing to our bodies, to destructive habits, so that destructive habits where we end up with all these diseases that we get, which are the ones that I just named. So the one way of really dealing with this is what you put through your mouth. And the first thing, which even one of the directors of the FDA in the States said, that human beings are messing up their metabolic function through sugar, through too much sugar, too much ultra-processed foods. So this is something that if, our viewers can really get from this podcast, is that please watch what you eat, because food was meant to be nutritious. Now, and I've seen it in Zambia, in terms of amount of maize meal.
Ugali.
Yes, that's all this white stuff is sugar.
Mountainous.
Yes. Now, if you go back a couple of decades, when we were working in the farms, our parents, our grandparents, they used to work in the farm and they will have that.
Okay.
But they bent it, you see, because they're very active.
Yeah.
Now, if you go
they're in the plantation the whole day.
Absolutely. Now, if you go back to our ancient tribes like the Hazar tribe and the San people, who go hunting and that type of thing, they were 14 times more active than us.
14
times in terms of active, in terms of walking and running and all those things that they do, compared to us. So now we lead sedentary lives of sitting. They say sitting is the new smoking.
Yeah.
In terms of how we're not supposed to sit for 50 minutes, by the way, we're supposed to stand up after 15 minutes just to let the body to circulate. So it's also leading us to sickness. But let's focus on nutrition. So the first danger of eating is actually the levels of sugar-based foods. And the sugar-based foods, as I said earlier, mainly the white foods. These are your bread. The whiter it is, the more dangerous it is. It is your starches in terms of your pastas, your rice. I know that eating rice for us at some stage it was quite a fashionable, showing that your family is growing up.
Yeah.
So the more you eat it, you're getting there. Yeah. But now it's proving that quite dangerous. Ultra processed food. When you go into a shop, the stuff that gets placed at eye level, that's the stuff where the guys are marketing, and it's mostly processed food. Your cornflakes, your popcorns for your children. Children have more sugar than us, and they've got a high levels of diseases where they get. You got kids in their 20s. My son has got a friend who became diabetic in the early 20s. Type 1. He's injecting himself, and you are having kids in the 30s and what. It's because of the lot of sugar and ultra processed food that kids. I always walk into the shops. Every time the mother shuts the kids up by buying some candy and sugar, and it really, reading too much is a problem sometimes.
Yeah. You feel like
it's like
the world is ending right before
and you can
my
see
eyes.
And you see the 10-year-old is actually overweight. You can see he's 12-year-old, but you can see he's overweight.
Yeah.
Why are you still feeding the child this food? So once you get that food, you're really disturbing your metabolic thing and your system.
Yeah.
They call them the nutrient sensing, hormones that go to your brain. They feed your brain and everywhere. They are looking for medicine. They're looking for nutrients. Now, what you're telling your body now is to now into something that they start fighting things like the collapse of your insulin generation in your pancreas, because now it's in defensive mode. Okay, and then you are affecting your whole system. That's why I was saying you should go back to the pop-out. Sometimes they say proper foods or foods that are eaten by our grandmothers. That were whole. That are not packaged and put in. So when you go into your kitchen, see whatever in boxes and whatever. That's a problem. Anything that's in boxes or in tins or what that's a problem. So try to make sure that when you go in the shop, you are biased towards that, which is usually smaller, the green section.
It's very small.
So it's very small.
Just an aisle.
Exactly. And it's not, and it's because of the marketers, the food guys. They want you to have tomato sauce. They want you to have your cornflakes. They want you to have all the rice. They want you to have all the stuff. They want you to have the yogurts. They want you to have all these things which are not good for you. Okay, including what they term as sugar-free.
Tell me about
I used to fall into that trap as well, where I used to buy low-fat yogurt. To find that low-fat yogurt is actually worse than true, proper, full cream yogurt, because that's a natural. I don't know if you guys have got sour milk,
we
from
do,
the village.
Yeah.
So the fermented stuff is really good for your tummy. Like this morning, they actually had fermented soft porridge. I don't know if it's millet or what at the hotel. And I thought, yeah.
You are loving it.
Because your microbiome likes it. So you got to be really careful in terms of what you get from the shops, because when you affect your microbiome in a negative sense, then your body doesn't get the nutrients, or you put in too much sugar. When you get too much sugar and you got insulin problems in terms of insulin resistance, then all that turns into fat storage in your body. And that's why, and one of the favorite places there to store fat is what they call visceral fat, which is your tummy. Okay, that's why men, long time ago, I used to laugh to say, in the village long time ago, the men that had tummies and working like this, having a shop, they were the ones we thought it was a big thing.
The ones that I got
going for them. In the village, it's like, you see the man with the tummy, so he's a rich guy. This is the guy that I've got ambitions to be. But obviously, that's a problem. And the next thing he falls because of blood pressure or sugar or whatever. But that's what we need to. It turns into fat. And if you don't burn it through exercise, because you got to exercise, and that really helps your system to really work very well, as I said. So that's really the essence of nutrition, to say, if you're an entrepreneur, you live so try, and also we eat a lot.
Yeah.
We eat a lot. Three meals a day is dangerous. The body is not meant to have so much calories. And it's been proven, my friend, through when you limit your calories, you tend to live longer and you're a lot more flexible. You're also clearer in your head in terms of what they call, foggy brain. So that's something, and I've done it because I've fasted. When you fast, when your body now focuses on itself and you give a break to your microbiome, because the microbiome, as I said, with all these, that's where all the energy goes when you put food. So when you release it and you give it a break, then you focus on your immune system, cleaning up what they call zombie cells, in your body and all that.
Zombie cells.
Yeah, zombie cells are dead cells in your body that need to be cleaned out. If you don't clean them out, then they can become cancerous in your body system. Okay, there's a process called autophagy. Autophagy is when your body tends to be able to clean all the dead cells around your body. It's like a vacuum cleaner. So that process has to also kick in your body. It's part of the natural process. So what the expert says is that you need to be able to eat food, the correct food that helps you also drive autophagy, which is cleaning up of the zombie cells. If they get stuck there and they don't, then they obviously they can lead to inflammation, which leads to also cancerous stuff. So that's really the principle of saying eating the right food, and that food is obviously a lot of greens. Your plate has to be as colorful as possible. The darker the food, the more nutritious it is, because they've got what they call phytonutrients, which based on their colors. A lot of the food that's colorful, or the fruits or the vegetables that are colorful, is because they went through certain levels of stress, and that stress that leads to that the stress, the struggles in the soil or limitations with this sun or what actually transmits into your body to also be able to fight things in your body. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Beautiful. So all those fruits in the desert and all that we find that we think they are old-fashioned and eaten by the farm workers,
the vita, the meal.
Those are the stuff. That's the stuff that's really good for you. So the darker, your beetroot, the darker cabbage, I don't know what you call it, the onion that's darker as well, and all those stuff, and the fruits, your berries are one of the best ones. Your berries, the black berries. So the darker the fruits, the darker the veggies and all that, they're good for. Spinach is beautiful. It's got a lot of, and people forget that all these veggies also have starch. So sometimes you don't need to put starch because they also have starch.
Yeah.
They have protein as well. Okay. So for instance, just to give a practical example, I only have 2 meals a day. Mm-hmm. So I do what you call intermittent fasting, or where I have my dinner around 7, half 6, 7, and then my next meal will be 11 a.m. the following day when I have my breakfast. And then I have breakfast around 11, then I have the main meal around half 6, 7.
What is in your breakfast?
My breakfast comprises of, again, I try to eat the food that was eaten by our grandmothers. So in Botswana, we have what you call sorghum. A sorghum meal. I don't know if you guys sorghum meal.
Yeah, that's called berlin here.
Yeah. So it's brown. And then also don't go and pound it and remove all the rough stuff. So we have one that's called ntlatawane. Ntlatawane means it's got rough stuff around it. So to mitigate the sugar, you also need fiber. Fiber makes sure that it protects your tummy from these sugar-based foods that go into your bloodstream. So it's very important to have lots of fiber in your food. And one of them is when you have rough foods like that, and also obviously in vegetables and salads, you got a lot of fiber. That fiber is very important. It's actually protective to you. Okay, apart from the minerals that come with it. So yeah, so that's the so I have that porridge quite a lot, almost every morning. Then I mentioned yogurt earlier. So yogurt is fermented; it's good for your tummy. So I have a full not the low fat one, the full cream one, the yogurt, and then and then I'll have and it's very important also to have green tea. Green tea is obviously in terms of oxidants. It's something that you can have, but you can still have coffee as well. I have my wife loves coffee, so I end up joining it. If you can't beat them, you join them. So I have coffee. And obviously you can have black coffee like her. She has black coffee. I still tempted to have a pinch of sugar, and to lower the sugar, I also put a little bit of honey. Honey in my coffee, because honey's got, there's what they call glycemic value. That's the value of sugarness in that product. So honey's got less glycemic value than when I compared white bread and real sugar. It's actually in glycemic value. So the way is measuring the level of sugar in a particular food, and that's how you measure it. So you're trying to lower the glycemic value of your meals as much as possible. Then I have fruits. I love pawpaw. Pawpaw is very good. So you try to go for fruits that have less sugar. So pawpaw is excellent. Your melons are very good.
How about
so you avoid, guys, avocado? Juice is dangerous. Now avocado? The right juice, I don't take juice anymore.
Avocado?
No, I was gonna go to avocado. Avocado is good. It's good. It's good fat. Peanuts. Always snack with peanuts. They make you full like you're full, but they're also very good nutrients. But the advice is to have just a palm full, maybe 3 times a day. I always have, guys always laugh in my house because I always have peanuts. So to snack so that they almost hack the feeling that you're hungry. But don't have too many because they're very heavy calories. But they are very good in terms of the fats that they have, just like the avocado. Those are very good things that you have. So at breakfast, some of them, the hotels will have some seeds and some peanuts, and those are good to always have, but I always keep them for the whole day, because with my time limits in terms of eating, sometimes you feel a bit hungry, then snack with the right things. Don't try to get a biscuit. Then just imagine that when you're having those sugar things, they spike your sugar and they get your pancreas working, and you just get it working till the valve fails. That's really what it is. It fails, and then you have type 2 diabetes. Or if it goes like this, it also leads to blood pressure. People don't realize that also eating the wrong foods in terms of your sugar-based foods also leads to blood pressure in terms of hypertension, which I said is a problem around Africa. So that's a bit of my breakfast here. So I have fruit salad with yogurt. I have a porridge, and I try to have oats is very good, very rich in fiber. So oats is sometimes I alternate with oats, and then I also have your sort of your granola with peanuts and seeds, which is higher protein level and fiber compared to.
You don't eat eggs?
Eggs are brilliant. I hadn't finished. Yes, and then I'll have, but I don't eat them every day. But latest research says really 2 eggs a day are really good for you. Remember, eggs are actually a better protein, and also cheaper compared to your meats and stuff like that. So eggs highly recommended. Plus have them with butter or olive oil. And I know that sometimes it sounds very fancy because those are very expensive. But one of the things that are really affecting sugar diabetes in India and these poorer countries is these terrible oils that we buy from the shops. Your canola, your sunflower oil, and all that. Those are really bad, and you try to decrease those over time, because the way is not to do with the sunflower, is the way they are processed, the way they are bent. They lead to things which are quite dangerous, which can lead to cancer, diabetes, and stuff like that. So also try, if you can afford, try do your eggs with butter or olive oil. Okay. Also a teaspoon so of olive oil every meal is also good for you. Talking about this Italian place where they live long, they also take a lot of olive oil, as you might. So that's my breakfast. So I'll have 2 eggs with avocado, with tomato. Tomato is very good, and for men, tomato is very good for your prostate. So from some research that has been done, so eat a lot of it. Onions, and then I've talked about the fruit salad, and if you can, have lots of green tea as well in the morning, and that's so the starch will primarily be around the sorghum porridge or the oatmeal, or the granola, which is got peanuts and what. So I vary those so that my mornings are not boring. But then the eggs I'll have, so no meat. And then in the evening, and then I've cut on red meat as well. In Africa, we love our red meat. In Botswana, we're crazy over our red meat. So I've cut it. I only have a couple of, maybe twice a week or so. And then obviously you can vary with fish and with what kind of. So I'm just giving your viewers an example of how you can start. So just know that largely we're eating. I mean, I watch at the hotel, some of the people that walk into a hotel and they
It's
terrible.
Mr. Oabona.
So that's nutrients, yeah.
Mr. Oabona, thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's been beautiful. I wanted to talk about entrepreneurship, but we are out of time. When
Not
I
a
come to
problem.
your farm,
We'll talk more. We'll actually do a podcast at the farm,
yeah, we will. But tell me, where do we get this book?
Excellent.
Tell me a little bit about this book as we wrap up.
Okay, so the book is called InnoLead. Let me just show the viewers. Yeah. So that's the book. It's called InnoLead, Unpacking the Inner Game of African Entrepreneurship.
Okay.
So it talks about entrepreneurship in Africa and the struggles we go through in Africa as entrepreneurs, because the landscape in Africa is extremely challenging, whether from bureaucracy, lack of finance and those type of things, poor infrastructure and all those things. So it's very tough and it can make you sick. So what are my premise and my philosophy is that let's be entrepreneurs, but look after the system.
Okay.
Mentally, physiologically and all that. That's why I designed the Joy Rep formula. So the Joy Rep formula is in here. And then also the 8 keys of happiness in terms of hormesis. We didn't have time to talk about the other ones. We talked about nutrients, being active, sleep. We didn't talk about, I'm going to be doing in my podcast very soon. I've got a sleep expert. We'll just be having a podcast just talking about sleep. So sleep is one of the things that really lead to very unhappy life, because it leads to, if you have very few hours of sleep per night, too many times, your cortisol start rising. You start eating too much. Actually, when you don't sleep well, you tend to eat a lot of starch. In other words, it actually spikes addiction to waking up at night and going to your fridge and find a bread or something. Okay, so that's really the essence of the book. And my philosophy is that Africa has to rise. Africa, we are behind India, we are behind, but we have huge opportunities for our young people. So this book is supposed to be a contribution to Africans, also contribution to the world to understand the challenges that we go through and the good things about Africa. I mean, at the beginning, I talk about how, 5,000 years ago, Africa contributed wheat to Rome, the Roman Empire. And later on, we had slavery, where we contributed in a negative sense to slavery. Later on, there was colonization, where a lot of stuff was leaving Africa to enrich other nations. Now it is our time to make sure that we do have this type of principles by myself and other people, and start bringing our because nations that have been resilient, have grown, they only grew through the art and science of entrepreneurship. That is why it is so dear to me, and that is why I'm part of the Stanford program as a business transformation advisor, where I advise business leaders across Africa to make sure that we can be able to scale the business, deal with employment. I mean, if you look at East Africa in total, it's got about 512 million people. You take Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, and all that. You got more population, just a group, more than the States, more than Europe. So you can imagine now, with your level of growth rates are not so good, but the opportunities are huge in terms of what you can do with 500 million people. Southern Africa just by itself got 300 million. So you got this huge continent with young people, obviously, with the median age being about 19. So the opportunities are huge. So that is really the contribution and what I had in this book.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
You were supposed to sign it for me. We got a pen?
Yeah,
somewhere?
I'll sign it for you.
Yeah, people of the internet, thank you very much. It's been a beautiful one. I have really and thoroughly enjoyed when your assistant reached out to me.
Yes.
And I looked at the first thing I did was to look at your podcast, and then I watched the one where you were in the farm, and then I watched another one, and then the third one.
Yes.
So, and I really love the way. One of the things I have to give you is that you can speak without an interviewer. For 30 minutes. I saw that you doing that, and I was amazed. So thank you very much. People of the internet, it's always a pleasure. You are the star of the show. You gather here and you listen to us talk about life. And this is what matters to me. Please consider subscribing to Dialogues with Jagero. Also hit on that notification bell so that when we have another podcast like the beautiful one that we've had today, you will be the first person to be notified. Follow us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere you get your social media dose. And please do not forget to follow him on his podcast, because it's amazing. Please remind me them again of your
Growthwell Podcast.
So
just type Growthwell Podcast. Similar channels, Facebook, TikTok, but please, importantly, YouTube. Let's get your subscription. Similar, do one for my brother here.
Yes.
Yeah. Africa Rise.
Africa Rise. Until another episode, people of the internet, bye for now.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
HustlesAfrica.com, a guide to high-paying online jobs. At HustlesAfrica.com, you will discover the jobs people are doing from home, the platforms where opportunities are found, the skills that open doors, and the practical steps to begin earning. Go to HustlesAfrica.com today.